physically in pain from grief, and I had no idea at the time because it's not something you talk about. I started having panic attacks and I didn't really know what was wrong with me. If we don't start having these conversations, so many people are going to be left feeling isolated and alone, like there's something wrong with them because they don't understand grief.
Welcome to the podcast Death, a Changing Industry. Today with a great pleasure to welcome Jenna Maudlin from the Firefly Project. Jenna, thank you for joining us today on the podcast to discuss all things bereavement awareness and also to talk about the great work that you're doing at the Firefly Project. Before that then, how did you get involved in the Firefly Project? And if you could just give us a brief overview to start off with about the work in which you do.
So the Firefly Project is on a mission to break the taboos and stigmas around grief and death and dying. And we do this through workshops with young people in schools and in community settings, and really creative workshops as well, which they seem to really enjoy. I originally came up with the idea. I was inspired by some of the work that I'd been doing when I was working with a charity called A Part of Me. We were running these workshops that were around how might we help young bereaved people build habits of self-compassion.
Yeah.
And one of the participants turned around to me during the lunch break and she was saying about how she was really stressed about having this design workshop to go to. But because of the topic, because it was on building habits of self-compassion, she decided to be kinder to herself. And she learned so much more and she enjoyed the experience so much more from that. And it just got me thinking, like, what if we did these kind of design workshops to teach young people about death, dying and grief? A lot of what I do, because I'm a designer, a lot of what I do as a designer is trying to put myself in the shoes of the people I'm designing for.
Yeah.
So do that through co-design, which will be working with people and designing alongside them with their influence and their support, or it'll be around like doing lots of research and really understanding. So it's really about empathy. Just from that experience, it just inspired me to think like, what could be the potential of this, of being able to talk to young people about hard to talk about topics.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And so you and I, we know each other from the steering group to add content on death, dying and bereavement to the national curriculum. And it's so, for me, you know, you are the example of what work is going on in the UK already. So it's incredible. And you and I have spoken about the responses that you're getting from the sort of lessons that you provide. Could you talk about those responses? What outcome are you seeing from people, especially young people, who you're teaching these sessions to? Over
the last year, we've run sessions with groups of children, so age 7 to 11, groups of 16 plus, and also teachers and youth workers in training. So a lot of the teachers and youth workers in training are under 25 as well, so it's really quite interesting to see all of the different responses. We ran a workshop with a group of 7 to 11 year olds in like June time, and this was the first workshop that we'd done last year. And we got them to write feedback down and they were saying how much they enjoyed the workshop, which I was hopeful when we'd put a lot of effort in to try and make them as playful as possible so that a topic such as grief wasn't going to be too overwhelming for 7 to 11 year olds. But they really enjoyed, because what they were doing as part of that workshop was designing elements of one of the A Part of Me apps. So they were trying to design for bereaved young people, which I think just made it a lot easier to engage with because they were getting to design like games and come up with ideas that were all around boosting connections or having conversations. So they got to learn a lot about compassion and how to build connections with others, and they like demonstrated their ideas at the end of it, and it was just really nice to see them engaging with the topic so well. We did a full session on empathy, which was a couple of hours, and we did some interviews afterwards, and they were just feeding back to say that they felt that it was beneficial to understand what their friends might have gone through, or what family members might have gone through when they've been younger and there's been a loss in the family, and just to have a better understanding of it. And really it's been coming back of like being able to be there for their friends and being able to realise how empathetic they actually are and be able to show that empathy. So that's been really, really great, especially from young people. One bit of feedback that we got from the teacher in trainings, or one of the teacher in training sessions, that really stuck with me, which was, it's going to improve my life as a teacher and the kids in my class.
Wow.
And that really hit quite strong. It was like, this is really big what we're doing here.
Massive. It's massive. It's you're contributing to society on a way that can't be measured, really. That's the difficulty with this. For the 7 to 11-year-olds that you're teaching this stuff to about empathy and compassion, are you seeing any negative effects at all when discussing about bereavements?
We haven't so far, but I think with the 7 to 11-year-olds, we've maybe been a bit more cautious.
Okay.
So over the next year, when we're going to be piloting more, I think there's going to be a little bit more experimentation around that with the support of some experts and some psychologists, just to make sure that we're mitigating the risk as much as possible anyway.
Yeah. The reason I asked the question, Project Eileen, who I've worked very closely with, they also provide sessions like you do, and their response from the students who are being taught these lessons, and the teachers and the parents involved, is all positive. And I think people have concerns when they hear me talking about this, saying that we need to teach children about the only guarantee in life. Their view is like, let children be children, rather than exposing them to sadness. What would your response be to that?
So we've actually spoken to a lot of parents as part of our research, and generally the response has been quite good, but it might be because we've been speaking to people that want to talk to us about it. Yeah. So we're also aware of the fact that we might have a little bit of pushback. Kids are naturally curious about these things. Yeah. And when we have spoken to some parents that have got younger kids, their kids have kind of picked up from that from films or things that they've seen on TV, and they've asked them questions and they haven't known how to respond. Yeah. What I would say really is that with kids being naturally curious, it's better for them to learn in the safety of the classroom than it is to go and look for themselves elsewhere. Where else are they going to turn if they've got questions and they're not getting answered? They're going to find out from things on the internet and stuff like that. So, and
also being taught by adults who aren't sure what to say, just replacing the goldfish isn't the answer. We keep coming back to it on this podcast. Having difficult conversations are very important conversations. Death is all around us, basically, isn't it? The Queen's funeral recently, COVID-19, it's all around us. We can't avoid it. So my view is, well, let's just give them the correct information in a really safe, age-appropriate way to empower them, to give them the tools to grow into adults and actually not deciding to cross the road when they see someone and they know who suffered the loss, but actually to use some simple tools to communicate. And actually the result of that is a kinder society for all. You seem very, very, your view and your heart seems very, very deep in this. And you're very much on a mission to sort of make an impact on society, because I think we both talked about this, we can see a big picture, and it's about how we execute that plan to make society a bit better. Is there an experience that you've gone through yourself to give you this sort of fire in your tummy almost?
Yeah, my mum died really suddenly when I was 22. Yeah. She went into hospital one week and she died by the following week from cancer. And it completely shocked me, because cancer, you don't expect it to happen that quickly within the space of a week. And it was a really, really difficult time. I'd experienced loss before that. My granddad and my nanny had passed away like 6 or 8 years before my mum died. And my nanny died of breast cancer as well. So I'd been through that process before. But I actually remember my mum kind of sending me away to go look after my granddad and make sure he was okay. So I didn't really see what grief looked like. Yeah. So once my mum had died, I just kind of tried to get back to normal as quickly as possible. But my body had had completely other ideas about that. So I started having panic attacks, and I didn't really know what was wrong with me. So I went to the doctor, and they said, "Oh, you're having panic attacks. You have anxiety." And they knew that my mum had died because I was in London and I was moving around quite a bit. So every time I register with the doctor, they go through your history, and they would mention about if I'd gone for BRCA gene testing yet because of my mum, but and when I was going with panic attacks, but nobody had actually associated the two at all. So I just started to think there was something wrong with me. I then started getting shoulder pain. I was getting taken to hospital because I was in so much pain.
Wow.
And
so you're physically in pain as well from grief?
Yeah, physically in pain from grief. And I had no idea at the time because it's not something you talk about. And as I say, in my family, my mum had sent me away when somebody had died so that she could grieve on her own. And it was, so it was a really, really difficult time, and it took several years for me to actually get any support from the doctors. And it took me going into the doctor and them saying, "Are you okay?" and me just bursting into tears because clearly I wasn't. And then and so it took a very, very long time for me to realise what was going on, and even then I wasn't really 100% sure what it was. So I went on quite a long grief journey, and then it was the 10th anniversary of my mum's death, or it was the year of, and I thought I want to actually do something that is, going to reconnect me to her, make me feel connected to her. So I decided that I was going to run 17 marathons in 2017.
Oh wow, okay.
For breast cancer care, which I did. I'd never run a marathon beforehand, so that was a really, really bad idea. Well, I actually really, really enjoyed it, but it made me actually, because I started speaking about her again, and I started talking to people about why I was doing it, and it felt good to finally release and connect. Yeah,
fantastic.
And there was another motivation about it as well, because my brother and his wife had just announced that they were going to have a baby, so I was going to have a niece or nephew on the way, and I wanted to do something almost like as a living legacy for my mum. And she also had MS, so she couldn't walk, and I remember very vividly her saying to me, like, "You need to do everything that you want to do in life because you never know when you're not going to be able to." And I think that just sticks with me, and the fact that she always said you can do anything if you put your mind to it. So why not 17 marathons in 2017?
And you proved again that it can be done. So
so that was a really amazing experience to get to do that. Between 2017 and then COVID, I'd gone back to uni and I'd studied to become a designer, and I knew that I wanted to do something that was going to help people. Didn't know exactly how, but I knew I wanted to help people. And I remember seeing this video about this kid that had lost a parent, and it hit me, and I was like, that's what I need to do. And then it was only a couple of months later that I was on this virtual away day with the company I was working with at the time, and they had some guest speakers come in, and that was when I found out about a part of me. Because I'm a designer and they design like apps for young people that are grieving, I was like, that's what I want to do. So I just sent an email to say, I'm a designer, do you need any help? And kind of the rest is history. I started volunteering with them and getting more involved with helping young people through design. And part of that is speaking to them and researching more about like their experiences and understanding from their point of view. And because I'd never really spoken to too many people before that had experienced the loss of a parent at a young age, I started to realise how my experiences were not, I thought I was a bit abnormal. I thought there was something broken or a little bit wrong with me. And I realised that I wasn't alone, that there were other people that were going through this. And when we were having conversations with some young people, they were saying that us not talking about this, or they had no grief literacy, was one of the things that one of the young people said. And there's no words, we're not taught how to talk about it. And it just made me think, like, how can we do something about that? And realising how many young people get to crisis before they get help. It was like, we need to have a more proactive response to this.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's, again, that reactive work. It's effective, and there's definitely a need for it because, like you say, there's no communication, there was a lack of communication in a proactive manner, so therefore reactive work is required. But wouldn't it be wonderful if we had some proactive tools in place so we actually knew how to deal with this stuff before it comes in? Yeah. Going back to your experience when your mum passed away so quickly within a week, you're 22 years of age. What support network did you have at that time? What was in place for you? What was out there from a friendship point of view and also professional point of view?
So there wasn't really anything. I was in my final year of uni, so I ended up deferring uni. A lot of the things I had planned for myself, I missed out on because I didn't graduate on time. So I had an internship lined up, couldn't go for it. And I had flatmates that were really understanding. They were really trying, but I think I was going through so much. I didn't actually know how to talk about how I was feeling. I did not know how to communicate with anyone.
Yeah.
My brother and my stepdad both, I think they kind of grieved on their own. I think we all had very different relationships with my mum, so they all took it in their own way.
And we are all different, so, so therefore our output is different as well.
Yeah. I remember because it was really early hours in the morning, so me, my brother and my stepdad were at the hospital when it happened, and we went down to like the beach just to watch the sun come up because just straight after, and we all went our separate ways once it was time to kind of go time for us to be able to be anywhere else. And so I didn't really feel like we could necessarily talk about it. Yeah. Me and my brother have talked about it a little bit more since, and me and my stepdad have as well. My friends tried with me, but I think it was difficult for them to talk to me because I didn't know what to say.
Yeah, and again, back to being proactive. Again, if we were taught about this at a younger age, you'd be able to process and understand these emotions better. Yeah. And therefore, if you understood how you were feeling, you can then communicate and then get the communication back, which will help you.
Yeah,
because even the vast majority of your friends weren't sure what to say to you anyway, because they have no awareness of grief and bereavement. No. But you can't even tell them anyway because you're unsure yourself. Yeah. And again, all that creates is further isolation for all involved, and especially the person going through it, which was you.
Yeah, I think that is a big shame because the friends that I lived with, we were all really close. But I feel like that actually did drive us apart, and because I couldn't communicate with them and they couldn't communicate back with me. And then I ended up moving out, and we've not really spent that much time with each other since, which is a real shame.
As I say, from our experiences of loss from a parent, it is a shame because we both know the opportunities and the possibilities around this. Mm-hmm. But future generations can benefit from what we both have in our minds. Yeah. And actually, like you say, you're teaching it, you're doing it. Can you give then any other positive experiences of people or young people who have been sort of struggling, who've gone through the work that you've provided and then come out the other end? Any other positive?
Yeah, so I've connected quite a lot with some of the young people that were working as guides that are part of me. Yeah. And one of them's now actually on the Firefly Project as one of our youth officers. Her mum died when she was 11. And I think that for the two of us, we connected around it being mums that we lost and having similar, I think we were both looking for similar things in people. So we just felt that there was, I feel that we did connect definitely over the fact that we both lost mums. She was saying that she, from her experience, she got very thrown into like activities after her mum died. And it wasn't until she had to slow down at the pandemic that it all hit her. Yeah. She found the A Part of Me guides, which is a group of young people that are training to become peer mentors. Okay. and they hold grief circles and they talk about grief. And it is a group of bereaved young people, and then they learn to become peer mentors so that they can hold the space for others. And it's kind of organically grown over the last 3 years. That's where I connected with Tegan, who's one of the young people, and listening to her story, and she was saying to me how she wants more opportunity to advocate for children that have experienced grief. And we got this opportunity with the Firefly Project to go and speak at a youth mental health festival with mine down in Bristol. So I took her with me, and she got the opportunity to like talk about her experiences and share them with others. I think that that's helping to like really drive that passion in her. So she's becoming, you know, she's writing a lot more about it. She's talking a lot more about it. And I think she's got that in her anyway. She's got that passion from her own experience. But to see that she's inspiring others and she's gone through this process so that she can help others as well. And she really wants to get involved in this work to support other young people that have experienced bereavement so that they don't feel so alone. Yeah. And now she's going to be working with me on the Firefly Project as a youth officer, and she'll be working with a group of other people on creating training pathways for advocacy, so young people can get involved in grief advocacy. And then we've got another pathway for creative facilitation, where young people get involved in actually delivering our workshops as well. So it's great that we're being able to give those opportunities to young people that want to get involved further. Yeah. She's the one that definitely springs to mind, but there's been just some really wonderful conversations with people as well. It's surprising how many times where I've put on a workshop or I've gone to talk about the Firefly Project, and people have come that weren't meant to be there specifically to talk about their experiences and talk to me. Yeah. So I think you can see that there's a definite need for people to have that outlet and to talk about it.
It's incredible. It's amazing. You're inspiring people yourself as well, so it's fantastic. The workshops that you cover and you deliver, how do you access those watching who might be interested? So if it's a school or a group of people who wanted to access, where do they go?
The best bet is to get in touch with us on our website at the moment, which is fireflyproject.co.uk. We've just received some funding to support us for the next year, which is great. Fantastic. As we were named runner-up of the Big Education Challenge, which is I'm still not 100% sunk in that that's actually the case.
Is that the whole of the country? Is that where's that based from?
Yeah, that's across the whole of the UK.
Yeah, fantastic.
So we're going to continue to get their support over the next year, and we are looking for kind of schools or community centres that want to host these workshops in there. And
that'll be free of charge for them too? Free
of charge.
So if they get in touch with you, you provide training then free of charge to these schools and different types of groups who want the support for their students or people they look after.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, incredible. So, bigger piece of work. I'm not taking away what you're doing, which is huge. Mm-hmm. That's the whole UK. But for a mandatory session to be taught to children in the national curriculum, mm-hmm. We have the consultation, which you and I have been working towards, following the petition last year. If the Department for Education are watching this interview and they're on the fence about doing this, let's say, we don't know, what would you say to them to tell them why this is needed? What would you say? Why, tell them why you think it's so important. What is it?
If we don't start having these conversations, so many people are going to be left feeling isolated and alone. Like there's something wrong with them because they don't understand grief necessarily or what they're experiencing. For teachers in training, there's no mandatory guidance that they have to have had any bereavement support training. So maybe there's about 10% of teachers in the UK that have had that. Because with grief, for some young people, them feeling isolated can lead to really complex issues down the line. It can affect so many parts of their life, especially if they feel alone, that for some kids the difference between a teacher being able to have a conversation or another young person and a friend being able to have a conversation about the person they've loved and lost, it can make so much difference in their life. Like for some young people, that could be the difference between life and death for them. Because for some who experience loss, and if they feel really lonely, that can lead to things like mental health problems, it can lead to suicides, it can lead to self-harm.
And even like you went through physical pain,
Yeah.
All those questions, am I normal? To get rid of that, to actually understand what's happening, that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's something that everyone's going to experience. We're all going to go through this.
Exactly.
How can we not learn about the only guarantee?
I know.
Jenna, you are inspiring, and I feel very humble to talk to you. You are already making an impact on society. Without the mandatory session in the national curriculum, you're already doing some amazing work. You should be really proud of what you're doing, and your mum, I'm sure, would be truly proud of you as well. So well done to you, and thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's a huge pleasure.
Thank you, it's been great to be here.
A huge thank you for watching our podcast, Death, A Changing Industry. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel as we have some fascinating guests lined up. Thank you so much.